Hi, I'm Danielle Hartman. Welcome back to another episode of Poured in PA, a series sharing the stories of Pennsylvania's craft beer industry. We start things off with a trip to the Steel City. Pittsburgh is home to nearly 100 different neighborhoods. Our friends at End Brewing Company have endeavored to pay tribute to each one of them.
Back in June of 2019, we decided that we were going to brew a separate beer for every single neighborhood in the city of Pittsburgh.
Overbrook.
And we had some questions as to how many neighborhoods there are. There's a couple of different sources. Wikipedia had like 92 neighborhoods. We looked at the city of Pittsburgh's website, which at the time that page was broken, so we couldn't get any real information there. But we had it in with the city and we found out the official list had 90 on it. And so, all right, how do you go about producing 90 beers?
90 different beers that we've never done. That's fun as a brewer to do. So I was gas pedal on the floor immediately, and we probably had too many beers than we can keep up with actually selling. So we throttled it back and have been going at a better pace.
Yeah, we were really going great guns for a while. I think we were knocking out almost one a week, which is crazy in terms of a development cycle. But having the name established, having the label artwork for the cans established as a template that you can change out, that's made it a lot easier for us to be nimble and move to the next beer style as they come. The neighborhood beer series was one of those 2 o'clock in the morning, sit up right in bed and go, wait a minute, kind of moments, for me anyway. And it really came out of a notion to try to spend some time thinking about what it means to be Pittsburgh's local brewery and what our connection is to the city and the various aspects of our city. And also the other element in there is wanting to make sure we are not leaving any part of the city unturned. So there's an inclusion aspect of it as well.
One of my buddies years and years ago did a thing called pit stops, which was go to every neighborhood in the city and have a drink. So there's a lot of dry neighborhoods. We'd kind of pull over and have a drink on the side of the road in some weird community. So I told Scott about that idea a few times, and I think that kind of slowly went into his noodle, and this turned into another idea. So
yeah, for sure.
There it is. The next Pittsburgh neighborhood to get its very own beer is Troy Hill.
So in terms of how we pick the next neighborhood, we have our mystical growler of randomness here. And inside here are little slips of paper with the name of each Pittsburgh neighborhood on it. So here's Elliott, one of the neighborhoods we haven't done yet. Pull that out. Sometimes we pick the neighborhood before we know what the beer is going to be. Sometimes we have a beer in the tank and we just need to assign the neighborhood to it. So for a while we talked about pairing the style with some aspect of the neighborhood, maybe use an ingredient from the neighborhood or what does Bloomfield taste like?
we're doing a collab with another brewery in that neighborhood,
or another business in that neighborhood, and then after a few minutes of thinking about that, our heads were gonna explode. We're like, okay, if we want to get through this list of 90 before we both retire, we probably should just let it be completely random.
This is not easy.
This is the awkward part where it takes 5 minutes to pull it out. Shake that out of there. And
okay, here. Let's get this.
I'm all about the awkward.
Maybe put my Knoxville beer down. Come on.
Put your hand all the way in the ground. That's fine.
I'm having performance anxiety.
Try not to look, but tension is so. I know. Oh, there it is.
The Fairywood neighborhood.
Did you know Pittsburgh has a neighborhood called Fairywood?
We know now. We know now.
Every neighborhood's a little bit different in terms of the response that we see to the beers. Some of it comes from like an ownership or a personal connection people have to a neighborhood. So they don't really care what's inside the can or what's in the glass. They're excited about a beer called Garfield because there's a family connection. When we released Garfield, we actually had somebody send us a picture of their grandmother sitting there with a glass of Garfield next to the can, and she had been a Garfield resident for her entire 80 plus years of her life. So there's those personal connections that are really cool. And some people then just are after the beer and they're excited about one style being more popular than another. But it's always cool when you're exposing somebody to a new beer style. Because the neighborhood is sort of the hook that catches them, and they're like, wow, I've never had a smoked beer before. And then they get to experience that for the first time because they had a connection to that neighborhood. Yeah, and there's an aspect of it that I never thought about, which is people are almost like subscribing to the program. They're collecting cans at home, like the stack we have up on the I-beam there. They're making sure they touch all the bases. There are people that, when we do these releases in the neighborhoods, they're coming to every single one, and that's their means of exploring the city, which is cool. That's kind of the point of the project, is to touch every spot in the Pittsburgh neighborhoods. The tricky part is doing a beer release during a quarantine. We're not able to go out into the neighborhood and make those community connections as we were before. We actually thought, do we put the neighborhood beer program on hold until this is over? But with that uncertain future, we decided to keep rolling with it. So the biggest challenge is that we're not able to do something in the neighborhood for a new beer because of the quarantine or because of the stay-at-home orders. So we don't have that opportunity to explore that neighborhood and see what's in a neighborhood, or encourage our beer fans to come out and join us in a neighborhood they've maybe never been to before. When do we think we'll get through this whole list?
Like probably 3 years would be my guess.
From start to finish?
Something like that.
Yeah, we've made some deviations from the random selection along the way. For our 15th anniversary of the brewery, on that week back in December, we drew the random name of our own Larimer neighborhood from the growler. Turns out that was the only thing that was in the growler, was just the Larimer name. So we did a version of our flagship Big Hop IPA with all local ingredients. So everything sourced from within 100 miles of the brewery.
Closest maltery and hop grower, water, all local.
All local
possible.
water. Yeah. Every time we do a new neighborhood beer, we're going to put a post up on social media. We have a number of bars and restaurants around town that are subscribed to our neighborhood beers. But of course, the best place to find it is here at the brewery. Our releases are pretty relaxed events. We make large quantities of beer, so it's nothing panicky or stressful about it. I like beer being a relaxation beverage. That's what it's built for, right?
Yep. So yeah, you could get it here or through Vicini Distributing Company in Millvale, or any of the neighborhoods where we go to, hopefully, and release.
Yeah, that's once we're back up and rolling, we'll be able to. If you're looking for a neighborhood beer, you can hopefully find it right in that neighborhood. Well, first pour is always perfect. At least there's one aspect of this that's kind of funny to me. We get these messages from people periodically, like, when are you going to do a beer? When are you going to do the Penn Hills beer? When are you doing the Dormont neighborhood beer? When are you doing, cranberry neighborhood beer? And none of those are Pittsburgh neighborhoods.
Right.
And people are excited about getting a beer for their neighborhood, but somehow they don't know that they live outside the city.
We may have created a monster that will never, ever be conquered.
So Pittsburgh adjacent neighborhoods are just spiraling out. We'll just do one for every street.
Yeah, one for every county in Pennsylvania.
And there's a map on the front of each one. So if you don't know where you actually live or where that neighborhood is, you can find your way to it. Yeah, just double click on the label.
We realize that beer drinkers also enjoy other types of alcohol. If you enjoy distilled spirits, Tattered Flag Brewery and Stillworks in Middletown has you covered.
The three of us were high school friends. After high school, we all went our separate ways. All went off to different universities, and Pat, after he graduated from Penn State University, ended up joining the Navy, eventually became a Navy SEAL, and was deployed on multiple tours. In fact, he just got deployed, this is a Monday we're doing this, he got deployed again on Saturday. So he's gone again for the next year, but he came back from his active duty, decided to move home. He said, I think I'd like to start a brewery. And I was working in the mortgage industry at the time. Ben owns a Meineke empire, so he owns 7 Meineke franchises. And so he knew we had a little bit of understanding on how business worked and how to deal with the SBA and all those things. So it started with just us helping a friend write a business plan. And as we moved through that process, we realized that we worked really well together, which we should have known as being best friends from high school, but it just worked. And so I left my career in the mortgage industry to help Pat start this. Ben's still doing the Meineke thing, but he's very active in what we do. And that's how we started. That was in 2015 or so that we really started that process. And we ended up opening in 2016. So when we first sat down, the three of us, to go over what's this gonna look like, we knew it was gonna be a brewery. We knew we wanted to have a restaurant side of things. But the distillery piece we added because we were looking for something to make us a little bit different, right? There's so many phenomenal breweries in the mid-state, in Pennsylvania in general, but the Harrisburg-Hershey region is just becoming a hot spot. So we said, what can we do to make ourselves a little bit different? And so we became friends with Dan Kulik, who's now our master distiller. He was the head brewer and master distiller down at Battlefield Brewworks in Gettysburg. And he sort of was just helping us through the process. What do we do? How do we find a distiller? And it just turned out it was an awesome fit. So he decided to jump on board with us, and he's been distilling with us ever since. So that is a huge part of our operation. So when people ask what we do, it's definitely we're a brewery and distillery first, and we happen to have a really great restaurant second. And then we decided to do a coffee shop as well, which was cool. We call it the Nuclear Bean because 3 Mile Island is literally, you can see it out this window right here. We looked all over the mid-state. We looked in our hometown. That was our dream, was to be the first brewery in Perry County, which is where we're all from. And we looked at several properties, just didn't work out. And then our realtor said, I got a building I want you guys to look at. And we came and took a look, and we spent 5 minutes in here, and we knew it was the right spot for us. The character, the history of the building, it became really important to us to honor the history of the building. So originally it was just like the town community center, and it just became lots of different things over the years. But it's always been an important building. It's on the historical registry. The most recent thing it was an Elks Club. So the upstairs was an Elks Club, the downstairs was 3 different storefronts, and we kind of combined everything together. Typically we can seat about 400 people. So right now we are between 80 and 100 people that we can get in here with the current restrictions. And then we expanded. We expanded much faster than we thought we were going to. So we have a location in Gettysburg, which is a little tap room, seats about 18 to 20 people. No food down there, just a cool little tap room. And then in Hershey, we have our distillery lounge. So that really highlights the distillery portion of our business. So we do serve beer there, but it's really focused around our distillery. And then we'll be opening in Lancaster as well. So we're opening, it's called Tattered Flag Barrel House in Lancaster, and it's gonna focus on our barrel aged products. So it'll primarily be the brewery side, but again, we will serve our distilled products there. Our plan was to do a canning line after 3 years, expand to a second location after 5 years, and then see what happened from there. Well, what ended up happening was we opened our second place 18 months in. We opened the Gettysburg tap room 18 months in. It just grew so fast that it made sense. An opportunity fell in our lap and we took it. We really feel like the brewing industry is gonna go back to a micro-local kind of feel where this is my home spot. And I'll travel on the weekends and I'll go on a Friday and I'll hit 3 or 4 places that are out of town, but this is my spot. And so we're trying to get as many small local touch points as we can. I don't think we're gonna be done with Lancaster. There'll probably be more expansion in the future. We also, I didn't even mention, because of the of COVID, but we do have another location in Reading at their ballpark there. We have a stand that's dedicated just to us. It's only open during the season. Obviously, last baseball season that didn't happen because there were no fans. But we're really hopeful for this year that eventually we'll be able to have some fans in there and have our Reading location open again, because that's a really cool spot. It's right on the third base line under the bleachers, and we really love that spot. It's become a cool spot for us. So. If you ask somebody what's Tattered Flag known for, I would assume they would say New England style IPAs and fruited sours. Those are the two things that people, when I look at our Untapped and see what the buzz is being created, there's that. But we also have a lager series that's been really well received, and we believe that's probably the next move in the industry is back to good lagers. We do everything on the distilling side: vodkas, gins, all kinds of whiskeys, bourbon. But the thing we're probably most known for is our tequila, because there's only 2 or 3 places in the whole state making tequila. So we import the agave directly from Mexico. We're not allowed to technically call it tequila on the label because it's not made in Mexico. So we call it a Pennsylvania agave spirit, but it is tequila, that's what it is. We also do canned cocktails, ready to drink cocktails. We think that's sort of the next phase in the distilling industry, and we got on that early. We've been doing them for years. There's daily collaboration between brewing and distilling here because, number one, you share some systems, right? So we were actually the last place in Pennsylvania that we were grandfathered into it because we were already open. You're not even allowed to have a brewery and distillery on the same premise anymore, the same license space. There has to be separation and whatever. But because we got in before all that happened, we're kind of uniquely equipped here in that way. That's where we do our barrel aged stuff, is right from our own place. Or early on when we were sort of experimenting with brewery recipes and going, is this gonna work? I remember the guys tried a coffee pilsner and it was just terrible. I mean, it was just terrible. But we had a 1-barrel system for that reason. And that's for them just to play on. And that's what they were doing. It turned out to be awful. So Dan was able to take that product over to his side and distill it. And it came out to be this amazing moonshine that we ran for about a year. And so, they work together all the time. It's great. Collaborations are our thing. I mean, that's just what we love. So if you look up and down our Untapped, you'll see collaborations all over the place. And Justin, our brewer, loves to do them because, number one, it gets you into different markets, right? So it gets your name recognized. When you do a collaboration with Levante, you get recognized in that area. But then also, it's being able to pick one another's brains. They'll get ideas from us, we'll get ideas from them, whether that's on recipes or marketing or even little things like glassware, right? Just little stuff that we're able to truly be a brewing community when you're collaborating. And we've even been able to do that on the distillery side as well. And the other thing we love about collaborations is when we first started, lots of breweries that were established helped us by saying, hey, come collaborate with us. And we love being able to pay that forward now to say, here's a place that's just starting up. What can we do to help them get their name on the map? Just to start to get some social media traffic going for them, to get some word of mouth going for those places, because we feel like a rising tide raises all ships. And so the stronger the brewing community and distilling community can be here in Pennsylvania, the better it is for everybody. We all grew up in Perry County, a small county. We always joke there's more cows than people there. So to find a community like that, where it's so tight-knit and the people really care about each other, that's just the type of community that we have here. On snow days, those are some of the most fun days we would have over the years. Like days it would snow, people couldn't drive, we would still open up and all the community would walk to us. There were some of our, not most profitable days, but the most fun days, where really our regulars were the ones who were there and hanging with us. And then again, during the pandemic, when we were to go only, it wasn't lucrative by any means, but it was enough to keep the lights on. And that was really, we saw the same people over and over and over again, the people that we know by name and that we've come to just love in this community, who said, we're not gonna let you fail. The very bottom of the main steps, there's a framed flag there, and that is the Tattered flag that it's named after. So Pat, when he was in Afghanistan, and I can't even mention all the places he was just for security purposes, but he carried a flag with him the whole time, and that was the flag. He kept it rolled up in his pack. So it's been all over the world fighting for freedom. And so he brought it home, and he wanted it to be a symbol that just called out to the guys that didn't get to come home with him, the guys that didn't make it back. So that's where the name came from. It's really important to us, and it's framed down there for everybody to see. Pat is actually the only one of the three of us who has served. Now, we have about 16 investors that invest in the project, and most of them are military as well. Our production manager is a Purple Heart veteran of the Army.
Go Navy, beat Army.
Go Army, beat Navy.
For us, for Ben and I, this was Pat's dream. This was something that, he gave up the best years of his life to go serve his country, and we said, what can we do to help him achieve his dream? Pat is Tattered Flag, and so the public face, if Pat was here, he'd be doing this interview with you right now.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? Pat from Tattered Flag here.
He's a reservist now, and so he was called back into active duty. What it means for us now, we're kind of sort of feeling that out at this point. So I've kind of run the business side of things, he's run production. Our production manager, Brittany, is amazing, and he's been training her for the last 6 months. This deployment was not a surprise to us. Our master distiller, Dan, and our head brewer, Justin, are phenomenal. I'm not worried at all. It just means we have to wear some different hats, which we're happy to do because he's wearing a hat right now that none of us could. And so we're happy to let him do that. And our goal is that he comes back to a business that's running and growing, and he can just come back and enjoy it rather than having to jump in and get back in the daily grind again. He's earned it.
We'll sign off on this episode with a trip to Amish country. We visited Suburban Brewing Company and Honey Brook for our Brewery Spotlight. Until next time. Cheers.
All right, guys. Well, let's just start from the beginning here. How do you guys know each other in the first place?
I had a homebrew shop, and Eric came in to buy some homebrew equipment. So I've known of Eric just having a restaurant in the area, and ended up coming out to his house and showing him how to brew on it, and then just got talking, and he had a project lined up.
I was always visiting these breweries all over, Pennsylvania, and it was a lot of fun. You go and meet all these brewers and drink beer with them, and they're all open-armed. As you guys know, it's kind of a cultural thing, and I just kept being like, I'm a chef by trade, so I was like, kind of watching what's going on. I'm like, well, it's kind of like, this looks kind of easy. It's like, baking a cake, there's signs, and there's yeast, there's fermentation. I get it, so I was like, I want to try this myself. And went to Corey's shop, got the grain father, and he came out a couple times, and after like an hour into it, I'm like, yeah, I'm totally lost. So I was like, all right, I need a brewer. And that's kind of, we're just sitting around drinking beer, shooting the shit, and how it happened.
Hello. Starting to make some food for you guys.
I'm a chef by trade, kind of been deemed as like a farm-to-table chef. So I opened my restaurant in Exton and kind of kept that. So all of our produce, lots of our meats, all of our beer, I have 24 draft lines, was all Pennsylvania beer. And then while I was opening it, all these distilleries started popping up. So then I was like, well, why don't we do the liquor too? So kind of just embraced the whole local thing from food to booze. And we're trying to like tie the brand a little bit more together. We kind of were, when we opened this up, it's going to be Suburban Brewing Co. and then Suburban, but we're kind of tying it back together just to familiarize everybody with like this logo, and eventually take all of our beer and bring it down to Eagleview to the Suburban restaurant, and hopefully all 24 beers will be ours. And nothing better than buying beer from yourself.
Near Corey's Bar. This is our lesson today, sponsored by the letter B for beer.
I like to brew what's contemporary and then also what the locals like to drink. So we run the gamut. So a little heavy on the IPAs and the hazy IPAs, but also do a Scottish ale, which is pretty popular. The Kolsch is really popular here as well. We do saisons. I like to experiment as well with different ingredients, especially the stouts. And I like to test myself with other styles. There's always something to improve with the IPAs. Try different water chemistry or hop combinations or mash temperatures. Just always try to mix it up. We have a black IPA, which is one of my favorites. It was an old home brewing recipe. Try to listen to the customers too, what they want. There's a lot of requests for sour type beers, so we did a Goza. The Saison is a popular one, Belgian Triple. And my thought is when people order a flight, you can differentiate between the styles when they get 4 or 5 beers. So try to have from light to dark, from hoppy to malty, and everything in between.
There's not too many beers that Corey makes that I don't like. I like it all.
How did you guys land on Honey Brook?
I was sick of not being able to go have a drink in town. I mean, the nearest breweries, Parksburg or Downingtown or Exton. So we felt like there's a need out here, and
Right.
it's a small community that's really embraced us. So it's
Yeah, and this actual building kind of fell into place really nicely. Kind of gave us the ability to do what we needed to do without a whole lot of renovations. So the little brew room where we have the 1-barrel system, it's electric, so it's easy to set up, kind of get that real casual feel in here. This was the workshop for the saw blade manufacturer. The offices were where the arcade is. I think we signed the lease and opened within 3-4 months. So everything fell into place pretty quickly. Fortunate to be here right in Honey Brook. There's a lot of good local support.
Yeah, Honey Brook community's been great, and that's one of our biggest reasons why we're staying. We're expanding, but we're not leaving Honey Brook. We're just going 4 or 5 miles down the road.
We are in the midst of construction for a 10-barrel brewery. So we have 2 units within this building. The back portion is the production area, so it's about 3,000 square feet. We'll have a 10-barrel brew house. We're really close to brewing, probably weeks away. So it's a great space. A lot more room than we have here, obviously. And then in the front, the kitchen and the tap room. So that's going to be pretty cool. It's right on 322, so great visibility. We'll have ample parking and a bigger brewery to really churn out the beers. We'll have 16 beers on tap, plus we'll have a lot of beers in cans as well. So we'll have the space to can and store beer too. And really want to get into barrel aging stouts and saisons and other types of beers too. So it'll give opportunity to really expand our styles and offerings.
The expansion is like the last puzzle piece to make this thing that's going on in my head all work. So hopefully, we get this thing open in the next couple of months, and hopefully the country will start opening up again with some of this Corona stuff going away, and hopefully everybody rolls their arms up and gets vaccinated, and we can get people inside drinking beer and having fun again.